I'm usually tied down to gear reviews. I mean, I love doing them. These 3 craftable weapons are next on the channel. Side note on that, which ones are you liking? But with this video, it's almost gonna be like a podcast type format, and I really hope you enjoyed listening to it. Joe Blackburn said something on April 5th with the reflecting on Lightfall launch and beyond. Got me thinking, because I remembered some other things, and I really want to talk about it with you. And at the end, I would really love to hear your thoughts on what you think is getting ready to go down. I'm going to bring up some quotes from other developers on the team you might not have heard before. Blackburn said it's clear the initial experience they delivered on day 1 didn't provide the full clarity they originally planned when they set out creating Lightfall. The team has taken the feedback to heart, in both with what's coming this year with Lightfall and how they're going to be ending the Light and Darkness saga in the final shape. Over the last few years, he said that the team has set a high bar from what to expect in Destiny 2's evolving world. They're committed to making sure the resolution of our first saga lives up to the legacy. They're going to continue to build that resolution throughout the year of Lightfall. Can't wait to experience the conclusion to the saga alongside all of us as we make our way into the final shape. So we have that tidbit. The key words there is making sure that the resolution of our first saga lives up to the legacy. Next, I want to talk about there was a sit-down interview with Adam Grantham. That's the Destiny narrative director. Adam sat down with Press Strat about a year ago. It's Australian. And the interview took place like shortly after the Witch Queen launch. So obviously, some spoilers as to what happens in that campaign, but they asked, the reveal at the end of the campaign was very satisfying for long-term players in terms of paying off a narrative thread that's been teased since Vanilla Destiny. Can you talk about the thought process and challenge of finally delivering that character? And Adam said, we talk about the end of the Light and Darkness saga that we're driving towards. We have Lightfall coming and then the final shape. And this kind of started with a real commitment to see that happen. Goes on, there's the Traveler, we have the Black Fleet coming in, we've been building. So they had this commitment to the Lightness and Darkness saga, this story, think back with Savathûn, all of it. But then he says, and then to 2, show that there's a future of Destiny outside of those threats. With that commitment in mind, we started thinking, what does it mean to bring that to an end? That led them to some of the threads. They can see they started teasing in the Witch Queen. Then in between, we then have, of course, like the D2 account on August 24th, 21. The Light and Darkness saga will come to a dramatic conclusion in the final shape. Make no mistake, Destiny 2 will continue beyond. Then there was a podcast with Luke Smith, and he was with Ted Price of Insomniac Games. It's the Game Maker's Notebook podcast. And this was about 10 months ago, 9 months ago. And Luke said, like, as far as narratively, it is in fact all heading somewhere, the story. And then he says, it can feel a bit like if you weren't there for the ride, if you're coming late to the party, that's a really hard hurdle to overcome, meaning getting into Destiny. So he said, so I think for us, when we look at this arc, we call it the end of the Light and Dark saga. We're going to have that relighting of the engines, so to speak, welcoming folks back into the game. And then right after that, I think we have to continue to figure out how to slope the floor of folks coming back into the universe. Basically, they can kind of decide what they can build to help that. So some of the thoughts when you start placing some things together, and there's more out there. When it comes to the conclusion of Light and Dark saga, it's to show that there is a future for Destiny outside of these threats that we've seen. And when we look at this arc, the end of the Light and Dark saga, once that happens, they're going to have a reigniting of the engines, so to speak, welcoming people back into the game, into the universe. So in early 2024, the final shape is here. Then we get into 2025. Now what? To me, there's like 3 or 4 routes that can go. And this is what I really want to talk about with you guys. I want to hear your thoughts. I mean, I'll tell you what I would like to happen. I'll go first with it. I don't think it's going to happen. Like, as far as a percentage chance, like 1% that this could happen. Destiny is here to stay. It is massive. Let's get that straight. Like, first off, it's appeared to have stuck. Like, think World of Warcraft, think Final Fantasy. There's all the speculation with TVs and movie deals, all the things. Hashtag dead game, we know. But it appears to be just pretty much like a big brand in the gaming space to continue like a Final Fantasy, things like that. But when this saga ends for me, like the game itself needs a huge refresh. Bad. I'm talking strictly on a technical front, like an engine front, because you have to think, like deep code within the game. When they started making Destiny 1 into Destiny 2, yes, there were some upgrades. In that time frame, think of all the devs that have come and gone, their fingerprints put on things, the new ones coming in, adding on to that. Think about some of the things that we've wanted that didn't happen. Think about how long it takes to update the game, changes to happen. Think about people capping their frames at 30 so they don't take more damage in PvE. Think about warping melees. Think about all of the stuff. You know exactly what I'm talking about. Lighting, whatever it is. X amount of people in the tower. It could be a ton of things as far as technical limitations. And all in all, Destiny's about as polished as it's ever going to be. They've done a really good job polishing it up since it first came out. I think we could all give them that in the grand scheme. But it is technically limited on a lot of fronts. But it's beautiful in a lot of others. But for me, like, I really hope in the background as all this is going on, yes, they have the new IPs that we know nothing about. I really hope that they've worked on a new engine. I do. So that's the least likely option. Like, my perfect world would be the saga ends, the game gets a huge refresh with a new engine with better tech. But moving on, let's get into some more likely scenarios. When you think of the end of a saga, light and dark gone, like, I don't think that they're going to take away that power, right? The golden gun, like, all that stays. And with the saga, think about something like Star Wars, and then like Mandalorian. Like, lots of stories are told within the events of the movies. Even though things have come and gone, you're still in the same world. There's different threats, but the roots are still kind of remembered, if that makes sense. So it's more likely that a new saga begins, a new arc, you immediately think of the Veil, beyond light and dark. And with that, like, make no mistake, there are endless things they can do. And maybe Beyond is a teaser to, like, beyond our solar system, because, like, all of these threats have come to our worlds. Who isn't to say that we don't go there? That's what's most likely to happen. And how they do that, I don't know. Because there's also a huge emphasis on getting players back into the game. Another option could be where this game, or this saga, I should say, ends. It could go into like a new IP. As crazy as that sounds, I don't think it's very likely, but that could be a deal to open up to a new game within the Destiny universe. There's a ton of ways they could do that. And it's also in an odd time. And you have to take this into account. I mean, because really think about it. The current generation of consoles, PS5, Series X. Like, remember how the 360 and PS3 really limited what they could do with Destiny back then as they went on? We're probably going to see the next generation of consoles like in 2028 or 2029, 2030 possibly. So, like, would it make sense to start Destiny 3 with a brand new engine in a time frame like a little bit past the prime of the Series X and PS5, or like right in their prime, I should say? Do that in 2025? Probably not. But I do think that would be a good choice. Better than what we have. And of course, all that would transfer to PC. But again, to me, like, ideally, the game really needs a refresh. Old engine, limited engine, rubber bands, warps, damage misses, game update timeline, patch, getting new things in. And like I said, I'm pretty sure you can think of a dozen different things, but there's a part of me that thinks that everything's going to stay the exact same within Destiny 2. And essentially, you're going to be able to go back and play it, but they're really going to focus on a new player experience going into whatever saga they go into, kind of refreshing the community on the game, if that makes sense. But it's one of my biggest questions, like, as just a genuine fan of the game. I genuinely love the game. Like, yes, we could talk about story all we want as far as a new hero, a new villain, whatever it is, like, as the lore goes. But for me, also as a player, as an enthusiast, a fanatic of video games, just as important is the updating of those things, like the engine. Starting from scratch, building it, and I hope that they've been building it. Learn from the mistakes that they had in this previous one and just make it run flawless. But yeah, this video is obviously a lot different than what I usually do. And honestly, I have a ton of topics like this that I've wanted to talk about, but I mean, reviewing gear and weapons, it actually takes a lot of time. So, but I kept coming back to what Joe Blackburn said in that opening statement. He goes through some of the changes in Guardian ranks and focusing exotics. And I'm pretty sure you saw 1,000 videos on that too and talked about it. It's exciting, right? But that opening thing made me think of some of the things that I heard in the past. And I wanted to bring it all to you. And I would like to know how you think that this is getting ready to go down. It's so far away, but I think as the months go on, it's going to get a little bit more clear as we lead to final shape and then in there of like where we're headed. But it's always fun to speculate. But man, I would just love a big refresh on this game. And I still love it. Let's talk about it. I want to hear what you think. If you're new here, remember to hit the subscribe button. And if you are subscribed, thank you so much for your support. Let's talk about this down below. The end of the Light and Dark saga. How do you think it's going to go down? Thank you for watching. And until the next one, I am Cool Guy.